My name is Junaid Sheikh, and in this video, I am going to talk about Latin language for medical students. This video series is primarily designed for students who are enrolled in the first year of Doctor of Medicine program at any of the Eastern European universities or institutes where medical Latin is a part of their curriculum and it is a mandatory module. For this video, student does not need to have any prior knowledge or understanding of the Latin language as this is for the beginners, and students who are enrolled in any of these Eastern European universities pursuing allied health sciences programs may find this helpful as the Latin language is often optional on these programs. Why learn medical Latin? There are two main reasons why you need to learn medical Latin. Number one, medical Latin is a compulsory subject for students who are enrolled in the first year of the Doctor of Medicine program at any of the Eastern European universities. At the end of the semester, you will have an examination and you will get grades based on your performance. Therefore, to pass the course, you need to learn medical Latin. Number two, if you look at this question on the screen, this is a multiple choice question from Croc 1, June 2021. This is the very first question. If you look at the options, it is in Latin language. So if you struggle to understand this Latin language, you might not perform very well into the final exams. Therefore, it is imperative that we understand Latin language. So these are the two main reasons why you should learn Latin. Also, it's my subjective opinion. Latin is really fun to learn. The rest of the video, I'll briefly introduce you the historical context of Latin. I'll provide an overview of the Roman alphabet. We'll discuss these letters and their pronunciation in Latin context. We'll look at what are vowels and how you pronounce them. I'll define diphthong and present some examples. I'll introduce you to the concept of digraph, provide examples of Latin digraph and explain their pronunciation. We'll look at some letter combination, define noun in Latin, and discuss its grammatical categories. I'll also introduce you to a very important concept of declension and focusing on the first declension in this video and provide examples of nouns belonging to this declension and explain their forms. At the end of this video, I have produced a practice test for you on the topics that we have covered in this video. I strongly encourage you to take this test to consolidate and reinforce the key concept that you have learned in this video. So let's see the first one. As you may know, the history of Latin language is quite extensive and it spans over millennia. There are plenty of YouTube videos on the history of Rome. There are a lot of documentaries you can watch. So I'll just keep it brief here, relevant to our topic. So Latin originated in the region of Latium in central Italy, around the city of Rome, which around the time period somewhere like we are looking 6th century before Common Era, and it evolved from a branch of the Indo-European language family, which is the ancestral language known as Proto-Indian European, likely existed before 1000 before Common Era. There's something called as Archaic Latin. This is an era of that language from the 8th to the 3rd century before Common Era and was spoken in the city-state of Rome and the surrounding area. This period saw the development of Latin as a distinct Italic language, which was influenced by neighboring languages like Etruscan and Greek. The era of classical Latin is the form of language used during the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire. It became the literary and administrative language of Rome and reached its pinnacle during the 1st century before Common Era and the 1st century Common Era. While Latin ceased to be a spoken language today in the modern time, it continued to influence scientific, medical, and legal terminology. As you might have seen, a lot of anatomical terminologies we have are in anatomy, are in Latin language, as well as some clinical terms as originated in Latin language. So Latin phrases are commonly used in various fields, including medicine, and still taught in educational settings. To sum it up, the history of Latin reflects its transformation from a regional dialect to a global and enduring linguistic influence. Its legacy is evident in the Romanist languages, and it continues presence in various aspects of contemporary life. So this is in a nutshell about the history of Latin language. Let me provide you with an overview of the Roman alphabet, and also I will discuss these letters and their pronunciation in Latin language. So initially the Romans used just 23 letters to write Latin language, and now as you can see on your screen, those letters were A B C D E F G H I K L M N O P Q R S T V and X Y Z. So if you pause the video for a few seconds and see what letters are missing compared to in English. So if you have paused the video and have a quick look, you might have noticed that the letter J, U and W were missing. And you are absolutely right in identifying those letters. These letters were added later to write languages other than Latin. So in modern Latin language, there are 25 alphabets. What those alphabets are? Let's have. You can see on the screen, these are the Latin alphabets. I'll go through one by one. And if you see the column 1 has got the Latin alphabet, and second column represents how they are pronounced. Third column represents how they sound. Column 4, in what conditions they can be used and how, and we'll see some examples. So what I will do is I will read and explain each alphabet, and then at the end I will read all of them in Latin, how you pronounce them. So the first letter is in English is A. It is pronounced as A in Latin is A. The second alphabet is B as in English. It is pronounced as B. C is the English version, whereas in Latin this is always pronounced as ka unless there are some conditions, such as if it is before a vowel eiy or I or oi, then you pronounce it soft. Otherwise this is always hard, such as cranium or calum. So you pronounce it hard like k, cranium, calum, this way. Next alphabet is D. Next letter is D in English. So in Latin you pronounce it as da, da, such as in ductus, or ductus is duct, ductus. Next alphabet is E. You pronounce as A, A. F is pronounced as F, so there's not much difference. G is pronounced as G, G. Many people make this mistake. They should always be pronounced as in gum or is in gain, never as in ginger. So the most common mistake I have noticed is people say genitivus, or for the, you should always say genitivus or genitivus. The next alphabet is H in English. It is in Latin it is ha, ha as in habitus. Then next alphabet or next letter is I in English. However, in Latin this is pronounced as E. Be careful, this is E, not I in Latin. I can function as a vowel representing the sound I. For example, when we say sit, bit, fit, hit, that kind of sound when it is a vowel. It also functions as a consonant. When it works as a consonant, then you pronounce it as Y, such as in yellow or yarn or yes. So the letter J is used, and the letter J, the next letter J, is used exclusively as a consonant in Latin alphabet that represent the sound of Y as in Latin or Y as yellow. So our next letter is Ka, Ka as in keratoma. This is not very much used in Latin, but just remember it's Ka. L is more or less similar, but is always soft. M is similar as in English. M, N, O are similar. P is however slightly different. It is pronounced as pe, pe, as in palpebra, pe. Then Q in English is always qua, as in aqua, qua. In Latin you pronounce as qua, and it is in combination of QU always. Then the next letter is R, which is in Latin it is also called as dog letter because it's roar like R, 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 as in Ramus, Ramus. So it's R. It's not R, it's R. Next alphabet or next letter is S. S is most often pronounced soft, as in sulcus. Sometimes it can be used as pronounced as Z when it is after vowel or before M or N. You can see the example as plasma. It's not plasma, it's plasma is Z. Okay. The next letter is in English is T, but in Latin you pronounce as te, te as in tibia. U is the most recent addition, and you pronounce as U as in musculus. The letter X, or in English it is X in Latin, such as in plexus. Y in English is, this is of Latin, this is of Greek origin. It's called epsilon or epsilon, and it is used only in Greek words. And the last alphabet or the last letter is Z, and this is also often used in word of Greek origin. So we have seen all these letters. Let me just quickly pronounce them for you. So it's K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, X, X, Y, Z. So these are the Latin alphabets. Now let us see what are vowels. Vowels are something similar as in English, and in Latin there are 6 vowels. They are A, E, I, O, U, and Y. How do you pronounce them? And I will also explain the concept of vowel, and in just very brief I'll just mention one relevant point to us, especially in terms of anatomical terminology. So as I said, there are 6 vowels. The first vowel is A, second vowel is I, the third vowel is E, fourth vowel is U, fifth vowel is U, and the last vowel is epsilon or Y, E. So let me pronounce each one after the other. A as in under or caput, A as in met, vertebra, I as in sit or in vagina. Vagina means vagina. That means in English it means sheath, vagina. O. O is pronounced as U, as in soon, or as in corpus. Corpus. U as in put. U as in put, or pulmo. Pulmo means epsilon, or Y is pronounced as I, as in crystal, or tympanum. Tympanum. So these are the vowels. Now the question is, why do we need vowels? So in English we have got vowels. So the one reason why we need Latin, why would we need vowels is simple. Latin is an inflected language, as we know that which means that word endings change to indicate its grammatical relationship, and vowels often mark these endings, which help us to convey the information about the case, the casus, the number or numerous, and the gender of the term. This feature is really important for understanding the structure of Latin language, or the Latin structure. Okay, so far we have seen vowels. Now let us see what are diphthongs. So by definition, diphthongs is when two vowels make one sound, they are referred to as diphthongs. And there are five commonly used diphthongs in Latin language. Those are I, as a sound in isle, I. The second one is oi, as in oil, or in edema, oi. The third one is av, as in trauma, avris, or avram. So this is av. The fourth one is u, as in neutrum, u, as in neutrum. And the last one is I, as in 8, or as in I. So you might be thinking why we need diphthongs. So like vowels, diphthongs are used to provide phonetic distinction, which adds richness to the language. Also, I would like to point here to make a note that if you see two dots on either E, as in I, or OI, so that is called as diacritical mark. You can see here, I've given an example here. So this one is an example of diacritical mark. Okay, so if you see diacritical mark, that suggests that you should not read that as a diphthong, rather you read that letter separately. So if you see it's like this, you should say r, r. It is not ir, so it's r, so you have to read it separately. Now, as we have seen diphthongs, let us see what are digraphs. They are something similar concept, but slightly different. Like diphthongs, digraphs are by definition two letters written together that makes one sound. So the difference here is it is two letters. So these are letters. Whereas in diphthongs they are two vowels. So please make a note of this. This might be, sometimes it might be confusing. So diphthongs are vowels, two vowels makes one sound, whereas digraph are two letters that makes one sound, is called as a digraph. So the most commonly practiced four digraphs are ka, as in character, ka, not never use it as ch, because it's always pronounced as ka, as in new ka, as in neck, fa, as in phone, as in pharynx, as in rhythm or rhyme, and th, as in think or in thorax. So these are, again, they have the same function as previously mentioned. So these are the four commonly used digraphs in Latin language. Now let us see, there is a similar concept of letter combinations. So this is referred to as letter combinations. So there are four letter combinations and are pronounced as ku, ng, th, and su. So these are not overtly useful for us, but just make a note of this, that there are four. So it's not overtly useful for us. So I will not go into too much detail on this. Now, here comes the heart of Latin grammar. So, how do you define noun in English language? So, noun may be defined as, if you look at the Cambridge Dictionary, it defines noun as a word that refers to a person, place, thing, or any event or a substance or the quality. For example, doctor, femur, coal, beauty, these are all nouns. So, luckily, there's no difference in Latin noun and English noun as we have inherited from Latin. However, there is slight difference in grammatical categories of noun in Latin. So, the grammatical categories of noun in Latin are as follows. Number one is gender. Number two is the number, and number three, the cases or the casus. So these are the categories of noun in Latin. Let me explain one by one. Like in English, we do not have gender for the words or the nouns. However, in Latin, we do have gender for the noun. So there are three genders. In Latin, gender is referred to as genus. So genders are masculine or masculinum, then the feminine or the femininum, and the third one is neutral gender or neutrum. So these are the three genders for nouns. Example of masculine noun is musculus, as muscle is musculus. Example of feminine noun is costa. Costa means rib, it's a feminine. And neutrum is neutrum. It's neither masculine nor feminine, it's a neutrum gender. So example is ligamentum is a neutrum gender. Like gender, the noun have numbers, so they are not like 1 2 3 4, but rather singular or singularis, or plural or pluralis. They are often abbreviated as sing, or plural as plur, plural. So singular means, as you can understand, is quite self-explanatory, only one, such as a rib, a sternum, a bone. These are the examples. Plural means more than one, such as costai means more than one ribs. So these are an example of numbers. There is a concept called as case. This is very much different to what we have in English. So in Latin, they are endings that are added to the stem of a noun or an adjective. So we'll see about adjective in the next few videos. We'll do declension of the adjectives as well. But don't worry about it now because we are just focused on the nouns at this stage. So in Latin, they are endings that are added to the stem. These are called as the cases. So if you just remember this highlighted part, that should be enough for now. So what does it do? It tells us a noun or adjective is to be constructed in relationship to the other words in the sentence. So what is the relationship of the other words in the same sentence? It gives us that idea. So the main function is noun serve. So there are 5 cases that determine what function the noun serve in the sentence. So however, there is different classification. Some there are in some books is 6, in some books is 7, but we are more only concerned with the first two cases, that is nominativus or nominative, and genitivus or genitive cases. So these are the two that we will focus on in this series. So as I mentioned, case or casus, there are two that we are going to focus, is the nominativus and the genitivus. So the case is used for the subject of a sentence. So I will give you a very simple example here, like Tom is playing. So if you see this sentence, Tom is playing. Okay. So what do you think? What is the subject here? Subject is the Tom, because Tom is playing. So Tom is the subject. So whatever the subject is, that is a nominativous case. You consider that as a nominative case. So Tom is the subject. So Tom is the nominativous. How about genitivous? Genitivous is this case indicates possession or relationship. Possession or relationship. So another example is the friend of. If you see of, it denotes relationship or possession. Whose friend? Tom's friend. Of. Another example is tubercle of Arab. Of. Tubercle of Arab. So this shows possession. Who possesses the tubercle? It's the rib who possesses the tubercle. Who has got friends? Tom has got the friends. So this suggests a relationship or possession. This is called as genitivus. So when you translate, always use of. This is a very good way of remembering it. So genitive, always remember of when you translate. We just saw what are cases or casus. Now let us see what are declensions of noun. So if you remember this highlighted in green, it's very simple. Nouns are divided into groups and these groups are called declensions. Very easy to remember. Don't get confused between declensions and cases. This is quite confusing, but though they are related, but they are different. How they are different? So I'll reiterate. Cases indicates a role noun plays in a sentence. So we are talking about one sentence. How, what is the role of noun? Whether it noun is nominative form or it is in its genitive form. So we just talking about the sentence. Whereas in declension we are talking about a group. So by definition you can say declension is a systematic classification of nouns into groups and which are based on the grammatical features and patterns of inflection they follow. So they both are related, but they are not the same concept, so don't get confused. Now what do you mean by declining or inflection? As I said earlier, Latin is an inflected language. What does it mean? So declining or inflection means changing the ending of the words. So for this you need to understand the concept of stem that I will go through in a couple of minutes. But remember, inflection or declining is changing the ending of the words. So just keep this in mind. And when you make the changes, these changes reflect the role of word in a sentence. That is what it case. That is a case, whether it is a singular, whether it is a plural, or it is and its gender. So this is about a declension. There are 5 declension in Latin language, and just reiterate, declension is a group of noun that uses same case ending. So you need to remember this thing. Before we dive deep into the declensions, let me introduce you to a very important concept of stem and gender in Latin. So the stem is a part of a noun that remains constant throughout its declension. So what do we mean by that? So stem is a part of a noun, okay, and it remains constant. What do we mean by that is irrespective of which declension you want to use, like first, second, third, fourth, or fifth, the stem will remain constant. What will change is the endings that will change. And this stem serves as the base to which various case endings are attached. So as you can see on your right, this gentleman is sitting by a car and he's doing something with this hub. So this hub Now this is analogous to our stem. Why? Because irrespective of what tire you want to put here, or whatever brand of tire you want to put here, you can change the brand, you can change the color, or whatever you want to change, you can change. But this stem will remain here. This stem or this axle or the hub will always remain here. So the same analogy is here. So the stem will remain there, but what will change is the various case endings that will change. Now you might be thinking, okay, we have got so many, at least four casus: nominative singular, genitive singular, nominative plural, genitive plural. So which one should we use to derive our stem from? And it is a good question. So you need to use genitive singular form, and without declensional endings. This is really important because you do not have to use declensional ending. So this is the without, this is important, without declensional ending, and it will remain constant. As I mentioned earlier, it will remain constant. Now let me give you an example for this. So suppose you want to derive a stem for a noun Kostai. Kostai means, so because as I said, it is genitive singular, we need to use genitive singular. So nominative singular will be Costa, genitive singular will be Kostai. And what you need to do is, this is the genitive singular is Kostai, and you need to use what without declensional ending. So this is the declensional ending. I is the declensional ending. So we need to remove this declensional ending. So if you remove I from it, what remains is the cost. So this is the stem. So irrespective of which declension you want to do, 1 to 5, 1 to 5, you can use the same stem with, and you just need to change the ending. So this is what is stem. Now another important aspect is gender. So as I said, the category of nouns or the Latin nouns have gender, either masculine, feminine, or neutrum genders. Now the same question arises: which one or which casus should you use to understand the or to derive the gender of the noun? So you need to use genitive, or sorry, you need to use nominative singular to identify or to derive the gender. For example, we'll use the same example here as we said. So I hope you remember Costa. So ending in A, Costa. This is nominative singular form. As it ends in A, so I'll use this stem. So this is Costa. This Costa is a nominative singular. As you can see, it is ending in A or A. So as we will see in the next couple of minutes, or in a minute, that all declension, all all first declension nouns ends in A. So this is feminine. All feminine gender nouns end in A. There are some exceptions to this, such as, usually used for professions like poeta, which means is referred to as for males, but it is a feminine noun. So there are exceptions. We do not need to worry because we are not using the proper linguistic, rather than we are just focused on the anatomical terminology. Not linguistic, I mean the spoken language. So this is important in regards to stem and gender. Now let us see about the declensions. As you can see on this colorful table, I have made it a bit colorful so that it is easy to remember. So let me use this one. So this is the declension of noun. This is the first row with the declension of noun. And on this column, the first column here, this column you see gender and casus here. So we are just focusing on the on two casus, nominative and genitive, nominative singular and genitive singular and plurals. Now if you look at this table carefully, all this row, all this column in pink is first declension. All the content along with this is the first declension. Likewise, in blue is the second declension, the third, fourth, and fifth, respectively. I have color coded it just for memory purpose. So let us see what these tables look like, what these tables are, what these numbers, alphabets represents. So as I said, this number one is the first declension. This is gender, so all nouns in the first declension are feminine. So all nouns are feminine. With some exceptions, even though they end in a, but they are masculine. Example, poeta. But we do not need to worry much about this because this is more or less uh, spoken rather than linguistic, I would suggest, and it's not very overly helpful for anatomical terminologies. They are used for professions, like when you want to talk about the profession of, then you refer to that. Okay, so with nominative singular is the ending is a, for genitive singular is I, for nominative plural is again I, and genitive plural is aurum. This A has got a small dash on it. This is macro. So in this video I'm just going to do the first declension, and I'll explain in another video. I have explained in detail about how these declensions are, how you remember them, how can you memorize them, and there are various tips and tricks that I have used, so you can watch into that video. So let's take an example of first declension. Okay, the first declension, as I said, all nouns in the first declensions are feminine, so gender wise they are all feminine. So let's take an example of vein. So vein is a noun in English, and noun, as you know, vein is carries deoxygenated blood with some exceptions, and noun in Latin is called as vena, ending in a, vena. Okay, so when it's ending a, it is a nominative singular. Now what would be the step? Take a minute, pause the video and think what would be the stem. Remember, genitive singular for the stem. Remember. Okay, so if you've paused the video and work around, you might have thought, okay, so vena, veni, you remove I, then it becomes vein. So yes, this is the stem, vein. When you remove I from, so you write genitive singular form, so vena, veni, and then you remove the I from that, it be vein. So this will be the stem, and this stem you can use for all five declensions. Okay, great. Now nominative singular, as I said here, when it's ending in a, that is nominative singular. When you add a to the stem, it becomes vena, that means vein, one single vein. Okay, genitive singular. Remember, in genitive singular, what we said earlier is genitive means showing possession or relationship, some kind of relationship or possession. So when there is possession or relationship, we say of. So for the vein, you add to the stem I, then it becomes veni, which means vein of. because this is genitive. Next is nominative plural. What do we mean by nominative plural? So if you add I to the stem, it becomes veni, again same as the above, and it means because it is nominative it will be veins. Now genitive plural, genitive again remember relationship or possession, but this time it is plural. So genitive plural, it will be, you need to replace or you need to add arum, as here genitive plural arum, to the stem, and you get venarum. That means venarum means veins of. Remember, this is veins, not vein. These are veins because this is genitive plural, veins of. Okay, let us have a look. Let's take another example. Consider the term stem, cost. This will be for costai, that means ribs, for the ribs. Okay, so what will be the nominative singular? It will be costa, costa, because we are ending, we are adding a to the stem. So this is the stem. You are adding a to the stem. It will become costa. That will be nominative singular. That means a rib. Again, for genitive singular, remember genitive means we possession or relationship, and singular. So it's the ending will be I. So you add I to the stem, you get costai. That, and because this is possession, this will be rib of. Similarly, nominative plural, you add I, it becomes costai. Because it is nominative, it will be ribs. Because it is nominative, so it will be ribs, and it is plural form, plural. Then the last one is genitive plural. Genitive plural is you add arum to the stem, arum to the stem, and you get costarum. Costarum, that means ribs of. Because this is genitive, that is why it is showing relation or possession. So this is genitive plural is costarum, and it means ribs of. So I hope this first declension might be making some sense now, but to get hands-on, you need to practice some and use more different words. So yes, this is about the first declension. Your teacher might ask you to produce or write dictionary forms of the noun. So what do we mean by that is, if you see in the dictionary, you will found this kind of nouns, or they're in this way. Okay, so we'll continue with our example from the top, that is costa, our favorite. Costa is, if you look at its ending in a, that means it is nominative singular. You can see here nominative singular. This is I, that is genitive singular, again. And then you see, so all of these are feminine gender, so feminine and gender. So this is how you should write dictionary form. But when you read, you have to read full, such as vena, veni, feminine, feminum. So this is one example, so you can practice some more. So we have come to the last part of our video, and here I have produced a test for you. I would strongly recommend that you take this test, and this is just to consolidate your learning, what you have learned so far. And in this question, what you have to do is you have to identify the gender of each anatomical term or the noun that I have given here, such as arteria or costa or glandula, lingua, scapula, vertebra. So these are, identify the gender. You need to identify the gender. and write nominative singular, genitive singular, nominative plural, and genitive plural form of each of these six terms. I will put the answers in the I'll put the answers in the description. So, but first you do it and see, compare your answers with that of mine, and see how you understood the concept. If not, you can revisit and listen to the video again. So if you like this video, if you find this helpful, please like and subscribe and share it with your friends or your colleagues, because knowledge shared is knowledge squared. So thank you very much for your time.